First of all, it's great to see you all. Thank you for coming. Hopefully we're going to be able to get together in face-to-face here soon, but I expect, based on the information that I'm getting from National at this point, it's probably going to be Q2 at the earliest that we'll begin to have face-to-face meetings. And so we'll be doing this for at least a few more months. We are getting together for very, very short periods of time just to exchange gear and that kind of thing. But that's about it, and that will be outdoors with masks, etc. So for right now, that's the only person-to-person contact we're going to be having. And the reasons are obvious, okay? National is working on approving the rest of their plan to reopen the program. They've got a number of people working on it. It is going through a review process that has to do with not only the attorneys, but the insurance companies, the VA, and all the folks on the East Coast. And of course, their primary objective is to keep us all safe. And they are being very, very conservative in doing all of that. And so that's about where we are on that subject. I expect to have a little bit more information coming in, hopefully before the end of the year, but I don't think it'll be anything significant at this point. So that's it on that subject. Let's see. I'm going to share my screen and show you a couple of things. First of all, we're going to have to get everybody that is not signed up on the CRM. Hold on just a second. Oops. That is not signed up on the CRM electronic system. Everybody has to get signed up. In the coming year, everything that we do will be going through the CRM system. And we've talked about this a number of times. Right now we have almost 130 people signed up in that system. About 90, if I'm not mistaken, are veterans, and the remainder of that number are volunteers, which is great. There are some where there are errors in your sign up, and you'll be getting an email from a lady named Lois Short if there's issues there. But it will be mandatory for you to be signed up in that system going forward. Everything is going to be done through that system, including scheduling all of our events. And there's some issues with that as well. We ran a little trial virtual meeting this week with a few of us, and I'm going to show you a little bit of what it looks like. Somebody's got an excited dog in the background.
It's my awful dog. I'll just give him a swift kick.
Okay. Let's see here. I'm going to share my screen or pieces of it. For each event that you're going to be given an invitation to, you will receive an email that looks like this. Sorry about that. Thank you, Gary. Anyway, you're going to be receiving an email for each event that will look like this. Okay. And it says that you have been invited to a meeting, an event called volunteer meeting, and that's what I called that particular meeting. Okay, and then it says, please click on the link below to learn more about it and let us know if you can make it. So then you click on that, and it brings you to a web page that looks like this, and it shows your name and email. the name of the event,
Nothing's coming up.
the beginning and end date, beginning and end time, the location. We met at Wildflower Bread Company.
Rich, we're
The
not seeing what you
address,
see. We're not seeing what you're talking about.
Down here on the
Nothing's
bottom,
coming up, Rich.
Rich, we're not seeing your screen.
you're not seeing my screen. Okay, let's try this.
When you change screens, the share didn't change with you. There you go.
Okay, let me go back to the top of this page then. It shows this is the event registration form. Shows your name and email address, the name of the event, which in this case was volunteer meeting, the start date and the end date, obviously the same day, from 9 o'clock in the morning until 10:30. Location, we met at the Wildflower Bread Company. Okay, gives the address. And then if there's any additional instructions, they would be here. And then there's an RSVP section down the bottom that looks like this. And it says, yes, I plan to attend. No, I cannot make it. Okay. And then you hit submit and you're registered for that event. And it's as simple as that. I'm going to bail out of here again. Uh-oh, stop sharing. No, didn't want to do that. Here we are again. I'm going to share this next screen with you here. Sorry. What you get after that is another email message that is the, I think it's this one. Nope. Event confirmation. And again, it gives you the information on the event and it says down here, yes, you plan to attend. Okay. Then when that's done, just before the event, you get another reminder email. Okay. And when it's all over, you get one more that says, in this case, you had one volunteer hour that was contributed to the program. You can see the details and you can change that if necessary, but you're going to get this last email, and that's after I close the event and I mark the person as attended to the event. And yes, it's a lot of email going back and forth. And I've been bugging them to try and streamline this. But this is what we're going to have to do for each event going forward in 2021. And in this way, then they'll be able to pull all kinds of data from who's attending the meetings, etc. There's some things going on behind the scenes on this to make this a little bit easier, but for right now, that's just an overview. And when we start getting into this some more, we'll get into some more detail, but I wanted to just give you a look at it so that you could get an idea of what we can expect in the future. This is the way they're going to run all of the events. For things that require long-term planning, like overnight fishing trips and stuff like that, we'll have to enter all of that information and much more to get it going. And then it will send out reminders a couple of weeks in advance of the event, and then the day before or 2 days before the event to keep confirming and resupplying you with any new information. So that's what we're looking at going forward. And I know it seems like a pain in the butt, and in some ways it probably is. And if you have a lot of events going on, you're going to be seeing a lot of email. And I'm hoping that we can get that straightened out, but right now that's the way it looks. Initially, I think we're going to be seeing that we're going to have to do things doubling up. We're going to have to use the old manual email system that we're using today and that new system so that we can make sure that everybody gets the information and gets on board. But as I said before, everybody has to be registered in CRM in order to make that happen. Okay. So.
Hey, Rich,
Yes, Mike.
how will we know that we are good to go in the CRM?
Hang on for just a second. Okay. Oops. Mike, you're in the system. Anybody that's been in the system recently and had any activity, if you've been involved in the fly tying or any of that stuff, you know that you're already in. Okay. You are fine, by the way, Mike.
Thank
Happen
you.
to know off the top of my head.
I was
Okay,
just
but other
worried
people,
about Mark being a lost
what I'm
puppy.
going to do is I'm going to put out a list, probably in the next week or so, of everybody that's on our manual list. And if you're not registered in CRM, you'll get an email from me with instructions on how to do that. Okay. It's not that difficult. Could be pretty straightforward. I'm hoping so anyway. So,
Rich, this is Felix. Can I ask you a quick
Felix, yes.
question? So is that process for veterans or participants? Or is it for volunteers, excuse me?
No, it is for everyone. It is for volunteers as well as veteran participants.
Is it mandatory? I mean, what are they doing with this data? I'm just curious.
It is mandatory, to answer the first question. Secondly, the information is staying within Project Healing Waters Fly Fishing. It is not being sold to anyone. It is secure. It's being used mostly to provide data to our vendor base. Sorry, not vendor base, but donor base. The donors, especially large donors, want to see data from our participants, get an idea of everything from age to gender to military history, etc. And so the information is used that way. And that's about it in a nutshell. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Theoretically, it's a help to us in reducing our administrative burden. So if you read the advertisements, that's part of the reason they're doing all this, is to help us.
The
Ouch.
key word there is theoretically.
All right, Dave's in.
Yep. Got
Looking
lucky.
good.
Thanks, Gary.
Yep, awesome.
David, you made it. Good to see you,
And
my friend.
Luckily, not without some trouble.
Yeah. And there's another one with a COVID beard.
Yep. You guys lost me at password. Okay. Oh,
Well, everybody else got it in their email, I gotta say.
well, I'm not as smart as everybody else. So,
It's all right. The important part is you're here now. And it's
so
good to
what
see
I
you.
heard sounds like what I missed was the government wants our information, and because they're going to help us.
Yeah, it's kind of like the IRS is here to help. You know, it's the same
Right.
story.
We're
Yeah.
from the government.
that
We're here to
works.
help you.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Here to help you spend your money.
Question is, which government?
Yeah, but this is Healing Waters, not the government.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does Healing Waters have to disseminate the information to the government to prove that they're acting as a nonprofit?
Basically what it amounts to. Yep. Between them and the IRS, you know. So Any event, who's got a fishing report? If I'm looking away, sorry, I've got to take attendance while I'm talking. So who's got a fishing report for us tonight?
Went to Salt River last Saturday with the AFC. Did their helped out a little bit with their cleanup and did some fishing as well. Did pretty good out there. Seemed like olive streamers was the ticket.
Really?
Yeah.
Good. Were there many people at the event?
Yeah, it was, seemed like a pretty good turnout there.
Good. Last I heard, the flow rate was just about a trickle. Are they releasing more water now?
No, the water was really low, noticeably low. Yes.
Yeah. Last I heard, it was like 60 CFS or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Just kind of trap the fish in the pools. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, really. Yep. Good. All right. Anybody else?
Yes, were you guys near the pump station? Where did you go fishing on the Salt River?
It was a Blue Point Bridge.
Is that the one near the bus pickup area? The one that goes,
No, where the bridge goes over the river. And there's a campground to
Yes,
the
there is a bus
right
stop
and then a
there.
parking area to the left.
There is a
Point
bus stop there, David.
there is. Okay. Wow. And the fishing
Yeah.
was good?
Yeah, they were fishing right there at under the bridge. That's where they were.
Were they rainbows or what? What
Yeah,
were you
they're
doing?
all planted rainbows.
So we went to Willow. We went to not Willow, but the one just beyond that. At the beginning of this, the middle of November, and we caught 21 trout between the three of us. What's the one just beyond Willow Canyon?
Well, you got
Woods.
Woods Canyon and
You
then,
mean
then you
Woods
got Willow
Canyon?
Springs.
So then it was Willow. It wasn't Woods Canyon. It was the one past Woods Canyon.
That's Willow.
That's Willow Springs.
Caught 21 trout that day.
Good.
Nice work.
Nice.
Rained and it was cold and bitter. We camped out, but we survived it, as you can see.
This is on the
That's-
Salt River?
That's always good. Yep. Good. Anybody else? Well, Bill, you're always out there fishing, and I know you were fishing on the Saturday before Thanksgiving.
You were a witness.
I was indeed. That's how I know that.
We went to Dead Horse, and down by the water outlet from the middle pond to the big pond, the fish were just thick in there, and they've been regularly stocking Dead Horse.
Mhm.
And I kept having trout try to eat my strike indicator, so I tied on a floating fly that looked like it. It's something called a fat elk. It's kind of a cicada grasshopper imitation with foam. And when I put that out there, gosh, when I brought it home, the teeth marks in my foam fly were just amazing. And I think we caught somewhere between 12 and 15 fish in the 2 hours I was there.
Wow. Well, good.
I caught about the same amount, but it took me twice as long.
Well, it took you a while to get there. I ran ahead of you.
Yep.
We encountered a family up there, and the children, who probably had never fished before like that, each of them caught a limit of trout, and they had a stringer that was about 3 feet long with the family's limits, and somebody caught a nice crappie there too. So I kind of elbowed my way in, asking them questions. They said, "Oh, come on in and fish right here." So I did.
Yep.
The only problem I had there was the cottonwoods were dropping their cotton into the water, and I kept getting that clogged on everything. And there's a tree that kept trying to eat my flies. You know, it's kind of like Charlie Brown's kite eating tree. I left a few flies in the tree.
Yep.
Well, they got to eat too.
But yeah, the fishing was fabulous. And I would encourage anybody that's interested to go to Dead Horse because, like I said, they're repeatedly stocking that lake.
Yeah, they're stocking it on the first and third weeks of each month.
Yes.
Where is it?
And they're putting a lot of fish in there.
Yeah, and the water was gin clear, so you could actually see them come up and bust your fly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that near Gilbert or where is that is in the state?
Cottonwood.
Cottonwood, which is north about an hour and a half from here.
Okay.
Mhm.
And Bill, that was in the lowest pond, the third pond,
The middle pond,
Yeah, middle pond.
in the middle pond. Okay.
yes, the one we normally fished.
Yeah.
It's the big pond didn't turn out as well for some other people, and I was going to fish the big pond down below,
Okay.
and never made it down there because the fishing was so good.
Got it.
Is that private water?
No, it
it's
is
state park.
It's a state park.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a state park. And they put a lot of fish in there. I was there again a week ago today. My son got a day off from work and he said, "Hey, where are we going fishing?" And I, well, why not? So off we went for just a day trip. And they seem to be stocking on Mondays. The week that Bill and I were there, they stocked on Monday. We were there on Saturday. But last week when I was there, they stocked on Monday, and we were there on Tuesday, and the fish were a little lethargic. I think it's stocking shock. Okay, it takes them a couple of days sometimes to get going again. But my son and I each caught 6 or 7 in the center pond, along in the same areas. But once they hooked up, they were feisty, and we had some nice fish on the line. The lower pond was crystal clear, and we couldn't find a fish in that pond for love or money. I mean, nobody was catching anything out of the lower pond. It was really strange, and they stocked it as well. But the debris from the cottonwood trees was even worse than it was when you and I were there, Bill. But still, it was a great day. It was just gorgeous out, cool and breezy, and really nice. So it's definitely fishing real well right now. And if you go on up, you'll have a good day, I'm sure.
My wife and I were on the way up to the Williams area because I was scouting for elk. And I found it very difficult to leave those fish and go looking in the woods for a big critter.
I believe it. Yep. Yeah. Good. So anybody else been fishing? It's a good time of year to get out there. The canals, if you're interested in carp. I know a lot of the SRP canals, being it's winter time, they're going to start drawing them down. I happen to live essentially next door to one of the canals, and they've dropped the water level in the canal about a foot. And I'm going to show you some pictures in my presentation a little later. The fish are very visible. There's a lot of grass carp in there. At least in this section of the canal. There's places where there's schools of 6 or 8. And I'll show you some pictures of those. And if you're interested in carp, it's a good time of year to go after them. So, all right. Anybody else? Anybody got any questions or comments?
I got a chance to get out. I've been in Utah. My daughter's having our first grandchild. So we've been here about a month, but got a chance to get out on some of the rivers here and then tie a bunch of flies. Got up on the Weber River, just outside of Ogden, Got a couple Germans out of there. Nice cold day, very, it's kind of icy, but got a couple nice out of there. I got them on the some flies I tied with post fly, the white bunny leech. They weren't hitting on anything else, and boy, I pulled the leeches out and they went crazy over those. Also got a chance to do the Ogden River. I've done that one 3 times and not having any luck. I did, was after a couple browns, but they have a mink problem in the river, and the minks were actually in the water eating the fish. So as soon as I was in there watching them, so that was kind of interesting watching a mink take a couple browns out of the water. And then also got a chance to go on Farmington Creek. It's just a little bitty creek that runs up the mountain in the valley area, and got a couple native bows out of there on a fly called the Utah killer bug. Had some locals tell me about it, so I learned how to tie it. Watching some of John's videos, trying to figure out, because a couple different techniques I hadn't done before, and went and looked them up and tied them up, took them up there, and actually caught a couple nice native bows. So I'll be back to warm Arizona hopefully in a couple weeks. So
Good. Once you usher in the new grandbaby, huh?
yeah.
Yeah, great. Well, congratulations in advance. All right, anybody else? Good. Debbie, you're just hiding inside. It must be cold in Oregon at this point.
Yes, it's very cold.
No fishing, huh?
No.
Okay. Good. All right. I'm going to share my screen again, and I'm going to jump into our presentation for tonight. And see if I can find it. Here it is. All right. Can everybody see a beautiful picture of the headwaters of the Colorado River? This is, I took this picture a few years ago. This is believed to be the headwaters of the Colorado, and it is just on the southern border of Rocky Mountain National Park, as a matter of fact. And it's kind of the intro to my presentation on where's the fish? And we're going to be talking about where they might be in moving water and in still water. And you know that I capitalized the word might because there's no absolutes in this thing. There's a good idea of where they might be, but it's not always true. And even in little skinny water like this, we managed to catch probably a dozen 5-inch long brook trout that were feisty as could be, just in this little bit of water. And this is another shot of the Colorado, also in Colorado itself, the southwest part of the state. A little bit more water there, as you can see. And there's a guy down here in the lower right corner that's doing some fishing. And the reason why I'm showing you this is there are lots of different things going on in that portion of the river and places to fish. And we're going to be talking about some of those. And this is also the Colorado. This is where it really gets big and wide. This is just upstream from Lee's Ferry. And some of the things we're going to be talking about tonight are applicable in any of those 3 water conditions. Lakes are a little bit different, but when it comes to moving water, and the Colorado is about as good an example as you can get, the same principles apply in each of those different types of water. So, back to basics, first of all. I thought I'd cover some stuff just as a refresher for a lot of folks, or for everybody. Fish are not lazy, they're just really efficient feeders. They don't expend a lot of energy unless they need to. They'll definitely hang out in shallow water or in water that's protected, and only use energy when it's time to eat. Okay. The very simple formula that they seem to follow, all by nature. We know they don't think a lot, but energy spent has got to be less than the energy that they get from the food that they're after. In other words, if they spend 2 calories of energy to get a morsel of food, they better get more than 2 calories out of it. And otherwise, they'll eventually die. Okay, it's as simple as that. They'll be undernourished. And we see really good examples of this when you watch, for instance, a 20-inch brown on the San Juan River just barely cruise out of its holding lane to grab one of our size 20 midges. They don't spend a lot of energy to grab it. It's got to be close by, and it's got to be coming right practically at their mouth for them to open it up and grab it. But then again, on the other side of that is you land a grasshopper on the water and some fish comes rocketing out of the bottom and grabs that thing because it's a big morsel and he's going to get a lot of food value out of it. So we know that they're really pretty intelligent when it comes to, and efficient when it comes to feeding. They will always conserve their energy whenever possible. And in moving water, they're going to find places of relative rest and wait for the food to come to them. Okay, again, they'll only cruise out of their holding lane just if they see something coming by. And in still water, they'll just cruise slowly in the water until they see something that looks like it's good to eat. There are many factors that affect their feeding, such as the time of day, the water temperature, sunlight on the water, bugs hatching, all kinds of things come into it. But basically, they spend their days either resting or feeding. You need to do some research on the water that you're going to be fishing. Really, it seems like an obvious thing to consider is, are there fish in that water? And in many cases, there aren't. And I'm going to show you some pictures of situations that look really fishy and there's no fish in there. Stocking schedules are great. The system that the Arizona Game and Fish uses is excellent. It's probably one of the best ones I've ever seen in different states. I'm going to show you some examples of that as well. Previous experience, not only yours, but of other people that you know. Are other people fishing in that water? Okay. If there are, pretty good chance there's fish in there. Scouting the water, the acronym of GOLD, get out and look. Okay, get out there in the field and look around. A lot of times you'll find signs of fish being in the water and often what they're going to be eating. Of course, local shops, guides, etc., all good sources of information. This is a page from the Game and Fish stocking schedule. When you go to their stocking schedule and you click on a particular waterway, in this case, it's Oak Creek, and then you can see that on Oak Creek, they stock in dozens of locations in Oak Creek Canyon. This is north of Sedona. And as you get further down in towards Page Springs and on into towards Cottonwood, and that area, it gets pretty spread apart. Reason why there's a red arrow here is I'm going to show you some water that's right in that area there. And so remember that arrow. There's a website that this guy, Charlie Robinson, put together that has got some really good graphics, and I wanted to go over some of those with you. He's on fix.com, and the name of it is Where's That Trout? How to locate trout in a stream. Some really good information in there. And one of the first graphics that he's got on that page shows basically different kinds of water that are on a stream. And it starts up here with riffles, some shallow rocks, shallow water, disturbed water. Okay, they'll have runs where the water is deep, can be smooth, uniform currents, can be wide at times, but usually deep. Okay, eddies will be created around rocks and other obstructions in the water, and the flow can be counter to the main flow of the waterway. And that's important because when you're fishing those, you'll think, wait a minute, that fly's going the wrong direction. But in fact, it's following the swirl of the eddy. There are pools, of course, where there's deep and calm water. And then there's a tail out, which is nothing more than the beginning of a riffle on the other end. So all of those are going to create places where fish can hold. So again, here are some of the same areas where you've got slow and easy water. You may have fast water in the current, the main current. And then wherever there's an obstruction, it creates a different flow around it. Slow water behind rocks, faster water near the shore. Okay, you may see seams where there are multiple currents coming together, like here. Okay, so all of those are places where you're going to find fish. And this is where they're going to hang out the most. Okay, they're going to be in this channel here. Recently, the folks up in the Payson program, Payson fly casters, did a lot of work on the East Verde River. And when they did exactly what's shown here. They put logs into the river to create holding water just like this. Okay, and they did that in a half a dozen different places, and it's been very effective on creating good holding water for the fish. Again, you've got deeper water down here, and you notice that you got fish facing in two different directions because of the way the water flows through that area. There's a lot of holding right here behind these rocks, and then here the fish are facing the opposite direction. And again, it's because of the eddies and the currents coming around in different directions. Then it goes back to facing upstream again. So in most cases, of course, they're always going to face upstream. They may hide in some strange places, that's for sure. And then there's another graphic. This is from a different source, but he says there that they only need three things. They need food, security, and rest away from the current. Main channel current up on top here. You've got an eddy coming around. Again, you've got fish facing against the current. Okay, but in the same direction as the main current. So it's opposite of what you would normally expect. Rest and security, okay, right here behind these obstructions. And this section right here, just before you get into this, this eddy area, he's calling it the all-you-can-eat buffet. Okay, so there'll be lots of opportunity for fishing here. Fishing on slow or fast, depends upon how you want to handle it. And he also points out that there's difficulty in fishing with the feeding here because of fast currents. And any cast you put into this immediate area is going to create drag. Excuse me. So pretty good graphic also. This is a section of Oak Creek. It's outside of a campground that I belong to, and it's where that red arrow was on the stocking map. And there's a lot of things coming along this piece of water here. You've got some rocks in the water here, creating some riffles in a number of different areas. You've got some fast water coming through here. You got a nice seam up here. Nice slow water up against the bank over here. Obstruction, little island of rocks and dirt in the middle, and then weeds. Okay, looks like almost perfect water. Here's a little bit different view of the same thing. Nice slow area over in here. with protection. There's overhanging trees and branches and grass and stuff. Okay, same area again. It's from further downstream, but a perfect holding area right in here. And this is what it looks like. It's a nice even current, not too fast. Looks almost ideal, doesn't it? At the point of that red arrow before, oops, didn't mean to do that. Let me see if I can. Here it is on that map again. And it's about, and there are no trout in that water. I can tell you that because I've tried to pull them out of there for a long time. The only thing I've ever gotten out of there is a couple of bluegill. And the reason for it is it's about 8 miles to the nearest stocking location, which is up here. Okay, so the fish just never get down there. But if you go a mile away, go a mile farther downstream from there, there are actually 3 locations where it's stocked. There's a bridge that goes over a creek there on Route 50, and they stock right from the foot of the bridge. And not a quarter of a mile downstream from that is the Page Springs Fish Hatchery. And they stock right out of the back door of the hatchery, right into the creek. And a little bit further beyond that, there is another stocking location. So again, knowing that there's fish in the water, I can't tell you how many people I've seen fishing that creek, and I just tell them to have a great day. You know, I know they're not going to catch anything, but it's a beautiful place to be, and they certainly enjoy it. But it goes back to the first item that I put up, and that is, you got to know if there's fish in the water. Okay, so these stocking maps are a big help for that. Well, this is Verde River, right outside of Dead Horse Ranch State Park. And you can reach this location here without going into the park. This is right under the bridge. Actually, this dark area up here is the bottom of the bridge. Okay, beautiful water in here. Looks really fishy, but again, they don't stock it upstream of that location, only downstream. And you can see here's the bridge. Okay, again, looks really good. Goes into some riffles here. You can just walk right into this area. Not too much foot traffic. They stock up about in here, a little towards the edge of the photo, up in that area. And there is a parking lot if you go into the park. Just follow the signs to the Verde River access, and there's actually a ramp that goes right down to the water where they stock from. It's also a place where kayakers frequent, and that's where they get into the Verde at that point. And you got to be careful walking around in there, though, because there are some deep areas in these nice grassy mounds. They look really pretty, but when all they do is fill up with dry leaves, you can get wet feet in a real hurry, and it gets really squishy and muddy, so be careful in there. This is maybe 1/10 of a mile downstream from where that last picture was taken. Water is very slow in this area, and you can make the cast across here without too much trouble. There's nothing behind. And there are some fish that I saw bobbing up and down right along the edge on the far side. So you can fish that as well. And these are some of the fish I told you about that were in the canal. You can see that the water is only about 18, maybe 24 inches deep. These are all grass carp. And these are really hard to see. These, I zoom in, these are cell phone pictures, but here's a rock. And the current is flowing from left to right. And you can see there are two fish here. And when I first walked up onto this location, there were actually three fish all tucked in behind this rock, all holding behind it. And they were just gill to gill in there. But it's surprising how sensitive they are. I can generally only get within about 10, maybe 15 feet of them, and they'll spook almost every time. But if you approach it real carefully and not walk heavily, it'll be fine, and you can get pretty darn close to them. I'm guessing that it's the vibration that's caused by your footsteps that they're picking up on. You can still get in there. I found an excellent video that is called How to Find Trout in a River, Part 1. It is part of the Orvis program. And I've put this on our YouTube channel. It's in the playlist called Favorite Videos. Runs about a little more than a half hour, 33 minutes. It's excellent. They talk about some of the same things that I was just discussing. And you can see where he's picking up a nice trout here on the near seam, on the seam just on this side of that riffle. And that's just one of the many areas where you can get it. But I would definitely suggest investing a half an hour in this video. It's a good one. Okay, and it'll give you the link to the part 2 if you're interested as well. Okay. And here's Dead Horse Ranch, like Bill and I were talking about before. This is the area where we caught most of the fish. Believe it or not, right in the middle of that picture, there are actually about 30 trout. And they can be pretty hard to see, but they're right in this area. Okay. And as Bill said before, look at all the leaves. Okay, all that debris from the trees. So that makes it hard for you to see them. So this is when we start talking about still water. This is the same, well, it's a zoomed in version of that same picture, but you can see there's all kinds of fish in here. And they were all just schooling. And they were hungry. And that's a telltale that works every time. Okay, you can tell what the fish are doing, even if they're only just touching the surface and disturbing it. At least you know they're on the move. Drop your fly. That day we were dropping our flies on the far side and just trolling them in through the middle here, and probably only 2, 3, maybe 4 casts, and you got hooked up every time. Okay. So they are definitely in there, and the signs are there. This was later in the day after Bill had gone, and doesn't look like much is happening. And I was going to move on and try a different spot. And then this happened. Okay. One certain fish broke the surface. So I moved up a little bit, started casting out in that area, and started picking up fish.
What a gorgeous place.
It is indeed. That day, all the cottonwoods were gold and just beautiful. It was a perfect day. This is the same lake. Okay, 2 weeks later, that's actually me. My son took this picture, but you can see all the debris in the water. And it made it really hard for us to see where the fish were. But we were still able to pick up a couple little bluegills like that. And a couple of decent stalkers. It looked like so. And when all else fails, remember, go back to basics. And I always like the Bert and Ernie version of trying to catch fish. I think we probably all tried this at some point or another. And that's my story. Anybody got any questions or comments?
Looks good.
Oh, good.
Nicely
Nice
done.
picture taken there.
What's that?
You did a great job of photography. That's amazing with that
Thank
camera.
you. Catch and do what, Tony says. Catch and release. Every one of the fish that we took on both of those trips, we released. Especially on Saturday when we were there, people were looking at us releasing fish and say, "Why are you letting them go?" Okay, you should be putting them on a stringer. And my standard answer to that is so that you can catch them. We didn't take any fish out of the water. Every one of them went back in healthy and swam away on their own. And I think, you know, as an organization, we support catch and release. Although if anybody wants to take a fish home and make dinner, have
My
at it. It's
typical
entirely
comment
up to
is,
you.
typically I
Bill?
say, a fish like that is worth catching more than once.
Rich, I have an interesting comment about Tempe Town Lake. I was
Yeah.
there in March and got a nice 1.5-pound bass, got it in the boat, and you could see where it had been caught 4 times before I caught it. I was the 5th person to catch that fish. And
Really?
it was funky and jumped around, so it went back in the lake for somebody else to catch again. And so it's important to conserve the resource and let other people know if you want to fish, you know, they're not that expensive if you go to the store.
That's certainly true. And the ones at the store are already cleaned.
Yes.
And to me, that's a big deal because that's not one of my favorite activities. I haven't done it in a long time. But, so that's the story for tonight.
Do you were going to have a comment about the fly tying? I wanted to say I really enjoyed the sunfish pattern last month, and been working on a couple of variations of that. I still have to master the whip finish. I haven't been able to master that yet, but enjoy tying the flies.
Good, good. Whip finishing can be pretty tricky.
That's the manly art of the Mattarelli.
Amen.
Well, after your first 200 tries, you'll get it right.
Yeah.
It's encouraging.
And then,
Thank you.
and then if you leave it alone for a week, it'll take you another 200.
So Mike, get one of your big bass hooks from the dark side and just practice on that hook. Don't even
Well, I
tie a
never
fly.
fly-
Just sit there and practice tying that knot.
I never tie a fly on a hook smaller than a 6.
Oh, no kidding.
Wow. Well, in that case, you should be an expert on the whip finish.
Yeah. I use a lot of
You gotta try
Most
it
of-
on some of those 18s.
Most of my flies today were 18s.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah,
The good old Karamanid.
Oh, good. Yeah. There's a lot of small ones, a lot of decent size. I think last month they was size 12 was the smallest. And those were pretty easy. Those went pretty well. Yeah. So
A fun thing to do, guys. Most of the experienced folks on here know this, is to don't take a 5-6 or a heavier rod. Take a 3-weight out there if you know they're small fish, and you will have a ball because you think you got a whale on there.
Yep. Yeah, I know one of the guys at DFC on small creeks, he takes a 2-weight, 7-foot 2-weight. And that would be a challenge, I'm sure. Okay. Yep. But a 3 is good. I enjoy my 7.5-foot 3-weight on Oak Creek, that's for sure, at some of those places that I mentioned for where they stock. Get an 8 or 10-inch rainbow on a 3-weight that's a shorty like that. And, gets interesting real quick. And your net arm gets really long. trying to get them in. Yep. So, all right, any other comments or questions? All right,
Yeah,
our
Rick?
next meeting.
Do we have a
Yeah,
Payson
JC.
trip on the schedule?
What's that?
Is there a Payson trip on the calendar for next year?
There are no trips on the calendar as of
Okay.
yet for next year. What we believe is well, what I know of the current plan is that we're going to be in virtual meetings like this one at least through Q1, and there will be no personal contact of any kind until hopefully into Q2, which will start with April. And then Kevin?
Yeah, I want to say congratulations to Franklin with his third place finish.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, on the fly tying, absolutely. Great job. Yep. But anyway, Mike, we're hoping that we're going to be able to do some small one-on-one type trips in Q2. And then after that, it will expand to probably 5 people on a trip, and then go on from there. A lot of it will have to do with the distribution of the vaccine and the input that we get from the VA. As you know, the VA is all their adaptive sports programs and stuff are all shut down completely. When they start up again, that'll be one of the indicators that we can get started again. So there's a lot of things in the equation to get us going again. But as I said before, you know, the real key is safety for everyone.
Rich, do you think that there's going to be a mandatory vaccine card or something that we're going to have to show and prove in order to participate face-to-face issues or face-to-face trips?
There is no way
heard.
they can make that mandatory.
Yeah, I think that would be a very difficult thing to mandate.
Good.
Yeah, that's the way I feel about it. I think it's a personal choice kind of thing. But we're going to have to wait and see. I just don't know. We've got to take our lead from the VA and from our national organization. And as I said before, you know, that involves not only the attorneys, but the program leads, insurance carriers, major donors are now getting into the act, I understand. So like many things, there's a lot of different points of view on that stuff. And everybody's going to have to get satisfied before we move forward. Okay. Again, safety is the main key. You know, we got to keep people healthy because by the nature of this organization, almost everyone in the program is in the high risk category. When you think about it, okay, virtually everybody is either through the age barrier or is, you know, disabled because of medical issues. Okay, so we will see. I'm hopeful that things are going to move faster than projected. Certainly getting the vaccine out to the public faster than anything has ever happened in that category is a big deal. JC, have you got your hand up there? No, I think he's waving goodbye. Okay. So I think we'll wrap it up. I did want to say, oh, Norm?
I just wanted to say Merry Christmas and come back next month. We're going to talk about water safety.
Merry Christmas.
Yes, there you go.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Yep, everybody have a wonderful holiday. Stay safe.
Yeah.
And keep an eye on your
Be safe.
email. We've got a lot of things going on via email. I did forget to mention earlier that I put out an email yesterday that had a new list of rods that we can give away to veterans, and volunteers are allowed to participate in that program as well. It is first come, first serve, and my email has been buzzing today. So a lot of stuff going on. We're trying to get some of these materials out to you guys so that you can go fishing, for heaven's sakes. Okay, and if you're interested and you've got your name in the hat, you've gotten an email from me, and we're working on how we distribute that stuff. But take a look at the list. There's some really nice rods on there that are still left. So jump on it. All right.
Thanks, Rich.
All right.
Thanks for supporting me, guys.
Thanks,
No
everybody. Happy
problem,
holidays.
David. And Debbie, I see your.
What's that?
Merry Christmas to you.
And to all.
Okay, Debbie, I see your message there, and I'll get you on the email loop. I don't know why you're not on there, but I will definitely make sure you get that right away.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Merry
All right, everybody
Christmas,
have a great
everyone.
Christmas.
Yeah, I want to see
Mele
Reggie.
Kaliki Maka.
Hey.
That too.
Debbie, I want to see Reggie.
Okay. Can you see him?
There he is.
Hey.
I miss you, Reggie.
On behalf of my Filipino friends, Maligayan Pasko at Manigan Bagantone.
Yeah, what he said.
Yeah.
What she said.
Stay warm, you
I hope that was
guys.
something good.
It was Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Merry
Thank
Christmas.
you.
Very good.
Joyeux Noel.
Hey, not bad.
Happy holidays.
All right. Good night, everybody, and Merry Christmas.
Good night. Thank
Good
you, Rich.
night.
Thanks,
Happy
Rusty.
holidays.
Uh-huh.